We'll try to do this quickly then.
Real quickly. Okay, Heather is on the way.
While we're waiting for her, any updates on meeting and face-to-face lately? I know that there's some discussions been going on. Joe, do you know by any chance?
We have talked to Thomas Harris, who's our city secretary, and he said we have the availability to start meeting back in person if we were wanting to. It just seems like we've had such good luck with the Zoom meetings and everybody being able to get here easier, and y'all not having to fight traffic to get here at 5 o'clock and all that, and I think they've gone very well since we've been doing on Zoom. So I'm definitely open to keeping it like we've been doing it on Zoom, unless the board would really like to start meeting back in person. And one of the things I thought was that maybe we would hold maybe a quarterly meeting in person or a couple of times a year in person. And then, and Daphne just brought up a comment here that we have the option to do a hybrid too, which would actually be some of us meeting in person at City Hall and others coming in on Zoom. So there are options there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like for now we have a quorum.
Okay.
So Hojin, since Barbara is absent, you will be the chair for tonight, and it is now 5:01, so you may begin the meeting.
Thank you so much. So I will call this meeting to an order. Give me a sec. I'm sorry. I lost my text there. So it is now 5:01 on June 8th, 2021, and I will call the City of Sugar Land Parks Board meeting to an order. So public comments. Do we have any citizens that are on the call or signed up for public comment?
No, sir.
Thank you. So moving on to item number 4, workshop. We have review of and discussion on the Welcome Home project and will be presented by Ms. Daphne McKinney, Strategic Planning and Philanthropy Manager.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. I am going to be talking to you about a couple of projects that are on deck or potentially on deck. The first is Welcome Home. So I know that Joe recently gave you I can't remember if it was Joe now. I'm sorry if it was Fungline or William. Gave you a presentation on the Eagle update, I think. So right along that vein, we have this plan for Memorial Park, the Eagle being one of the things, and then this Welcome Home project being another. So I have this slide to just remind you, and I know it's duplicative from the last presentation, but I just wanted to remind you that this is in an existing plan. We've completed the flags, we've completed the tower, we're near completion on that Eagle, and then Welcome Home is our final remaining project in that plan. Next slide, please. So again, just a visual reminder. Next slide, please. So for Welcome Home, we are at a point where we're ready to start taking the next steps for the project. I have received about 50% of funding commitments. I do not have dollars in hand, but I have about 50% of the project willing donors to contribute. So I'm excited to be able to start talking about this project officially. Next slide, please. So the vision for the project, and this is just a reminder, I'm sure you've heard this as the plan for Memorial Park has been talked about. In the plan, it says that the plaza area should be an active area, welcoming, celebratory, and provide education about the memorial. The theme for the area is Welcome Home, which is more defined as welcoming military personnel home from their active service. And the 3 words that I like to use is this space should be emotive, heartwarming, and welcoming. So the photos on the right there, you see that plaza area. I know this is nothing new to you. The bottom picture is the mapped area of where that plaza is. And to your left there, you can see the playground. Next slide, please. So the project plan has us imagining 3 to 4 bronze scenes. And what I mean by the term scene is a family or group. It's one grouping of a sculpture. The pieces would be sourced by our longtime bronze donor, Mr. Levin, and he has agreed to fund the first scene. So as a phase 1 kind of initial kickstart, he's agreed to not only supply the bronze, but also fund that first scene. So phase 1, and this is just a proposal, I'm here to accept feedback on these phases and whole project concept in general. But phase 1, as we propose it, has us honoring Sugar Land's only Medal of Honor recipient. His name is Macario Garcia. He passed away in 1972, but has plenty of family members, and they are super eager and excited that the city might be considering honoring him. There are other, not memorials, but there's a Garcia Middle School that has been named in honor of Macario Garcia. It's not technically in the city limits of Sugar Land, but that would be another way that our region has honored Macario. So one scene would be of Macario and his family. Phase 2 would be the remaining scenes, and this is what I am most excited about. And again, this is a proposal, but I hope you love it. This has us proposing doing an open call for submissions of real Sugar Land families that would serve as the models for these scenes. So we would do an open call saying, hey, we're looking for real Sugar Land military families. What was your welcome home experience like? Do you have photos from your welcome home experience? And would you submit them to us and eternally remember you through art? And of course, we would go through a process of selecting. There would be a selection committee that would prioritize that, and then ultimate approval would sit with our boards, including the Parks Board. The project cost is really highly dependent on the size of the scene. So I do not have that answer for you, but it could be around $100,000, and this would solely be funded through donations. Next slide, please. So this is a more detailed slide for phase 1. The photo you see there is Macario. And then the bottom sort of drawing is kind of a conceptual image of what the scene could look like. So again, this one would be fully funded by Mr. Levin. And I have met with his family members and descendants, his oldest son. I've also met with his brother. And they do support this installation or whatever we choose to memorialize Macario, and it doesn't have to be this. So what I do know is that photos of Macario are rare. So we suggest creating an image that would depict him with his 2 grandchildren who he never had the opportunity to meet. So it would be a more sentimental interpretation of that welcome home theme rather than literal. And I'll take your feedback on both phases in just a moment, but I do want to just share phase 2 with you. If you can go to the next slide, please, Natalie. Thank you. So phase 2, this is the inspiration. Of course, we don't have any photos. We haven't submitted this to the community. So this is what we propose as an inspiration board for what some of the statues could look like. So you can see these are intended to be pretty emotive. Of course, that welcome home really breathes life into some of these statues. And again, this is a real passion point for me. Next slide, please. So I really want to take a moment here to really hear what you think about both phase 1 and phase 2, and just happy to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. I just want to remind the board that as we provide comments or questions, please note that as the board, we need to come to a general consensus for this project item to move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and call on people, if that's okay. So the first person I'm going to call on is Kelsey Johnson. Any comments or questions?
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for putting this presentation together. And I think that your passion for the project really comes across, and the intentionality that you put into all the thoughts. I like both ideas for both phase 1 and phase 2. I think it'll be, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think it'll be really, really good to have the open call, to have the Sugarland residents to be able to submit their own photos and experiences of welcome home reunions, so to speak. And I'm glad to also hear that Mr. Garcia's family was contacted for input and approval for the project as well. But I think that both of the concepts are really strong, and I'd like to move forward and see the other sketches or placement of the different scenes that you had in mind, et cetera, as we move down the road. But I'd be very open to moving forward with the phase 1 and phase 2, as you suggested.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, Heather.
Hello, yeah, thank you for the presentation. Just one question I had was the phase 1 welcome home, the sketch, is that going to become a bronze as well, or is it going to be some other piece?
So the sketch will become a bronze. It's intended to become a bronze and nothing else. It's going to match the other scenes in the plaza. Of course, it's going to have its own story separate from those. But I do want to comment that this is a fabricated photo. He never met his grandchildren. We're going to have to sort of photo, and the reason I'm saying photos, and maybe it's confusing, but the bronze artist needs a photo to draw or to sculpt a resemblance of the folks. That's why I say photo. I'm sorry if that's confusing. But we are going to fabricate and Photoshop photos of Macario in uniform, and then his 2 grandchildren. They don't live together, so it's going to be a process. Don't get me wrong, but it will become a sculpture. It will match the other scenes in the plaza.
That's nice. Thank you for the clarification. It sounds like a really great tribute. And one other question is regarding like the locations between phase 1 and the phase 2. Are they going to be very close? Maybe you went over that, I just missed it, but where are they going to be relocated in relation to each other?
I did not cover that. Thank you for asking. And I don't have a clear answer because I need all of the funding in order to move forward with that second phase. So like I did mention that I did have commitments for that first phase, and I have another commitment for another scene. So that's why I said I had 50% commitments for the project as a whole. But what my hope for this project is when we do this open call, that the Legacy Foundation, who these donations will funnel through, the Legacy Foundation can do a campaign to fund the rest of it, saying, here's our plan, here's our projects, and the military community hopefully can help us fund the remaining portion of the project, and hopefully we can do them fairly close to each other. I know in order to match the bronze, we would want to do them all together.
Great, thank you. That answers all my questions. I agree. Overall, I like the concepts and have no problem with it moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Next person I have is Kelsey Lowe.
Hey, I really love the ideas for both of the phases. I think it's great to not just be generic statues, but to actually be representing real people. Love the honoring of the Medal of Honor recipient. I love the idea for the open call for photos. I think it's going to be really dynamic and really touching when it's finally completed. So I'm definitely supportive of both phases as they currently exist.
Thank you. Lastly, Tracy.
Hey, I'm always the last one. So y'all have great points, and I love the project as well. And the only question I had was about signage. Is there going to be something at each location explaining who the person is and what the project is about?
So that decision hasn't been wholly made, but we do for sure imagine at least one and I'm going like this as if I know the size of it. I don't know the size of it, but I imagine at least one piece, one messaging piece that would describe Macario, describe the process with which we went to honor, you know, these are real Sugar Land families, yada, yada. I imagine there being some messaging of some kind there at the site, maybe not necessarily individually at each scene, but that has yet to be discussed.
But at each scene, the person from the military will be in their uniform, right? Like depicted in their uniform.
That is the desire and intent, yes.
Okay.
Great,
Okay.
thank you, Tracy. And lastly, kind of want to mimic what everyone else has been saying. I think we're all in consensus. It's a fantastic type project, and using the photos and kind of adding the grandkids to that, I think it's a great tribute. I mean, even though they didn't meet, but I know that Sculptus they could put them together. You know, that's what they do, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you for that, and I concur. It's a great project. I think it's a great project to move forward with. So I think generally for this, we have a general consensus amongst the board members for this particular Welcome Home project. So, so the next item I have on here is the review and discussion of the.
Is me. I'm a virtual assistant who can help with lots of things.
Sorry, guys.
The times and alarms, the weather forecast, the latest news and sports updates.
That Alexa trying to get a say?
Yeah, she's
I can even tell you a joke.
chiming
Just
in.
ask.
Sorry about that, guys. The next item I have on here is the review and discussion of the Gold Star Families Monument, which will be again presented by Ms. Daphne McKinney, on Strategic Planning and Philanthropy Manager. So, Ms. McKinney.
Yes, thank you. Hello again. And I am also going to apologize for noise in the background. My 2 toddlers are home. They are downstairs, and sometimes they can get very, very loud. So I'm going to speak up as much as I can. If I do hear them getting loud, I apologize. So this is the Gold Star Families Monument Memorial. Natalie, was there a previous slide? Okay, yes. So you can see here, this is, I don't have any funding commitment, and it is 0% complete. This is not in an existing plan. This is not in one of the 4 pieces for Memorial Park. Now the city hasn't, since we're not complete, we haven't completed the initial plan, we haven't started thinking about what's next for Sugar Land Memorial Park. But this project came to me from a very passionate resident and a very passionate foundation that is doing a nationwide initiative to honor Gold Star families. So that's why I'm bringing it before you today. Next slide, please. Here's the project proposal. The project was pitched, like I mentioned, by a Sugar Land resident. His name is Jim Holker. He's also the co-founder of Impact a Hero, if you remember that foundation. He would lead the fundraising efforts in partnership with the Woody Williams Foundation, and it would be 100% funded by donations. The design for the site surrounding the monument would go through a review process, but the monument itself cannot change. So the monument you see in the photo with the black granite and the gold, that is the trademark of the monument itself and can't be adjusted city by city. And then the final bullet there is what I already mentioned, that we haven't started thinking about what's next for Memorial Park. So is this what's next for Memorial Park? Let's talk about that today. Next slide, please. Here's a background. I did provide, or the Parks Department provided a case for support in the meeting materials. So I hope you had the opportunity to at least glance through that to kind of understand what the Woody Williams Foundation is all about, what the Gold Star Family Movement is all about. But here's a map of their presence. In the state of Texas, there are 9 completed Gold Star Family Memorial Monuments and 7 in progress. So they are widespread. And I believe they have over 70 completed nationwide and over 70 in the works. So well over 100 of these monuments in cities across the nation. The Woody Williams Foundation and the Gold Star Families Monument, they do events and ceremonies at each of their sites. So there are some opportunities to bring folks to our park if we choose to install this memorial. And some examples that they have there are Memorial Day ceremonies. So we would want to include Gold Star families in our Memorial Day celebration. celebration is probably a bad word. I apologize, Memorial Day event. They also do specific Gold Star family ceremonies, and then they do a bunch of outreach events. So like 5Ks, we would be able to, they would be asking probably to do 5Ks out at the park or bike rides out at the park. Next slide, please. Here is a better photo, front and back, of the 4-paneled monument. I'm just going to pause here for a minute so you can really get a good look at it. Like I said, the material is black granite, and you can see the gold lettering on it. On the reverse side, it's a series of photos, and maybe Joe can help with how they are put on black granite, because I don't have the answer to that. Next slide, please. Here's the measurement. So what I didn't realize at first is the size, the sheer size of this monument. It's quite large. So imagine, you know, person size height, it's 6 feet tall and about 13 feet wide. So room size wide, person height. Next slide, please. So I wanted to feature the pieces that are existing in the park and some of the materials that we're using already. You'll notice all of these are familiar to you, of course, the concrete, you can see that rock, and then concrete seat walls, and of course the bronze and the bronze that we're anticipating for Welcome Home. So concrete, bronze, brick stone, and any plaques that we have are that black aluminum. You can kind of see it there underneath the eagle. We have that black aluminum there, and then black aluminum also in the tower. Next slide, please. So I've just sort of overlaid the Gold Star Family's monument with the existing materials just to show that this is a new material that we would be using out at that park, and I wanted to recognize that. But the Woody Williams Foundation has given me some examples of different sort of foundations and sites for this monument that could help us, if we choose to move forward, make it fit within our park. Next slide, please. So these are 3 examples of other cities that have taken this on. I think the top left would be most like some of the materials that we have. Of course, this is completely open to design and input. This is not a decision that the foundation makes. This is a decision that the city makes. But these are, like I said, some examples of where they've helped fit it into certain areas where it may not have been before. That top picture is actually Keller, Texas. Next slide, please. So the proposed site location for this, the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see those entryway flags. That's the roundabout. If you look at the left picture, you can see again that circular roundabout and that trail behind it. The rectangle piece, I don't know if I can annotate this. Let me see here. Oh, either way, you've been to the park, you know what it looks like. Thank you, Natalie. Yes, that rectangular piece there is the concrete, would be like a concrete base. That black line, Natalie, can you, yeah, hit that black line? That's the monument itself. The big circle to the left is, could be a shade tree. I mean, like I said, these are all just proposals, decisions have yet to be made, but we would like, if you choose to move forward, of course, your input on materials and design. Next slide, please. That's all I have for you. Happy to hear your thoughts and input and discussion. You're muted.
Jen, you're muted.
Yeah, it would help to be unmuted. Thank you. So again, thank you for that. And as we provide comments and ask questions, please note again, we as a board, we need to come to a general consensus for this workshop item to move forward. So I'll go ahead and be fair this time. Tracy, I'm gonna put you on the spot and let you go first.
Okay, I wasn't quite prepared, but I like the statue. I think it is striking. The black granite stands out from the other materials that are used at the park, and it has, you know, I love the size of it, so I think that's great. I think it's wonderful that it doesn't look like anybody in our area has this piece, so that's also a positive. And And I was having trouble figuring out how it worked into that area there and which way it was facing. But I guess that's all up to, because if you put the benches on the side where you see the back side of it, I don't know how that works, because it looked like in the pictures most of the benches were on the other side, or maybe I'm thinking that's different, but you would definitely want to see that front side as you drive up. So
it's important to note that it's a 360-degree piece. It's not really front and back necessarily, because there's material on both sides.
right.
And those benches, I mean, it could be a seating wall, or I mean, it doesn't have to look like benches on the back side, you know?
Right. I definitely liked the benches. I thought that was a good idea. So definitely a shade tree is a good idea as well. So
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Now working backwards, I'm going to call on Kelsey Lowe, please.
Yeah, it's certainly great fitting in with the theme of the whole park. Oh, sorry, my lights went off. I think it'll make a little more sense to me to see the eventual design for what will go around it to kind of help ground it in the rest of the aesthetic of the Memorial Park. It is nice that it does stand out to a certain extent, but it is so different than everything else there. I think having a better idea of what might go around it. I know this is in the early stages. Just to clarify, once again, the city of Sugar Land would be responsible for the surrounding stuff.
For the design, not the funding of it.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Excellent. Yeah, no, I think it's a really great idea. I think I'll be excited to see how the area gets fleshed out around it, but I think it's a great thing to go moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Next, I have Heather.
Yeah, I agree. I like the intent of the design. The pictures showing it in place in other areas was really helpful. I liked, as far as the materials, I do think it should blend in with the materials that we have on site. I don't think it should stick out like a sore thumb. So the one image that showed where it was more similar to the materials we had in the park, I think that was what attracted me the most. I liked that one the most. And I also liked the location, actually, that you're thinking of placing it, because as you said, it is so big. And I think that location won't, there's a lot of space in that location. So I like the location as well. So it won't like be too much of a big difference. So overall, I also like what's being proposed and have no issues with it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate your comments. Lastly, but not least, Ms. Kelsey Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on board with the rest of the comments. In terms of location, since that's not something that's well defined yet, it's more of, well, all of this is perspective, but I wonder if we could also consider the way the sunlight falls on the statue, on the monument, because I feel like there may be an opportunity in terms of the cutout of the soldier, that we can consider the way that light is playing with the monument itself. And I wonder if there are other parks and public lands that have this installation already done that we can also learn from, in terms of, is there an interesting way to play with light and shadow through the particular alignment of the monument itself, if that makes sense. The second thing about location, I wonder about if we anticipate that this monument would be a staging area for those events that you mentioned, like the start of a 5K run or incorporated into Memorial Day ceremony, et cetera. Just considering if a large amount of people wanted to gather around the monument at any given time, was there enough space allocated for that? Or is it close in enough proximity to other things that might be going on in the park? Just those considerations came to mind when considering location, but I definitely like the idea of the monument in the park. It seems very fitting.
Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate your comments. So I'm going to go ahead and add to the last comments on my side. So I'm actually super excited about this. I think this monument was showcased on the last Sunday, the 5:30 on the CBS Sunday Morning Show, because they were doing the dedications to the, of course, the Memorial Day, and there was this monument. It looked exactly like what you're showing there. So if this is one of the cities that's been selected as part of the to have this monument, I'm super excited. I'm all for it. It's a great tribute. We can never have too much tribute to the all those that serve the country. So I'm excited for this project to move forward. So I think generally we have a general consensus for this project to move forward. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks all.
All right. So next item we have is Mr. Joe Cheshire, Director's Report.
All right. Thank you. I'll go ahead and jump right in because so we can get wrapped up. But a couple Thursdays ago, we held the ribbon cutting finally for the trail and road connection from Memorial Park to Brazos River Park. Many council members were there. Some representatives from Fort Bend Mountain Bike Association were there. Our consultants there and contractors. So it was nice. The weather broke and we had a nice day for it. It was getting warm, but turned out nice. The feedback we've been getting for the road being open is really great, and people really discovering Brazos River Park and the whole area between the two parks. So we've had nothing but really positive feedback so far. So if you haven't been out there, I'd invite you to go and at least take a drive down the road, kind of see how it is. It really gives a different perspective to the park and just how big the property is, and the connectivity with the two parks right now is just a real positive for everyone. Next slide, please. Gonna move it into the recreation area. We've opened up the gym. You know, it was one of the last things that we opened up due to COVID. We'd been allowing things that didn't require people to be so close together, like badminton and table tennis and pickleball. But with basketball and volleyball, with the close proximity of people, we wanted to be as cautious as possible. But we've gone ahead and opened back up to those sports, and response has been really good. We had really high turnout for volleyball last week, and basketball players have really been chomping at the bit to get back into the IPRC. So we're happy to be able to accommodate those activities. Next slide. And along those lines, we had opened up reservations to our outdoor picnic pavilions back a couple months ago now, and then but we held off on the indoor facilities that we have until June 1st. We started taking reservations there so people can start going back indoors into our meeting room facilities. And of course, we'll continue to monitor the hand sanitizer stations at all these locations to make sure we have that safety factor in place. We're doing that as well at the indoor as well as outdoor facilities right now. Next slide, please. And we've held a couple of yappy hours at the Palm Springs Dog Park in over the last month. And unfortunately, June 3rd, last week on Thursday, if you remember, we had a really big rain. So unfortunately, we had to cancel that one. But the two that we held were really successful and had a pretty big turnout. The dog park itself always has a big crowd. So I think people really enjoyed the opportunity to come over and bring their dogs and, have food and beverages there at the park. And we plan on continuing to schedule these in at various times of the year. We are rolling in now into our Food Truck Fridays. Next slide, please. The Food Truck Fridays that we had to cancel back in April because of the way the weather was falling almost every Friday, we had to cancel because of weather. So we're rescheduling those for the month of June. So we have a couple coming up this Friday, and then the following Friday, back at Memorial Park, we'll have a band there and food trucks and activities for kids to do around the playground. So we're excited to be able to get these rescheduled and bring everybody out. And it looks like the weather should stay good for a while. Next slide. And on Memorial Day, we held the Memorial Day ceremony in the morning. Did the traditional raising of the flags at noon. We started off with some patriotic music around 10, and then at 11, I had a number of speakers. We had the color guard there. We had a couple of really talented singers singing national anthem and other patriotic songs. Had a really good turnout. This is the first time we've been able to utilize shuttle buses from Brazos River Park down the new road. That worked out really well. So we're excited to be able to do that. Typically we'd had to shuttle from the U of H parking lot, but it's just closer and easier to be able to shuttle from Brazos River Park. There's just not really enough parking at the existing Memorial Park for everybody to be accommodated there. So it turned out really successfully. Had a touching ceremony. We've added some names inside the Remembrance Tower of some Sugar Land residents that were killed in the line of duty this past year. So, with that, we just, it was a nice ceremony, and everybody seemed to have a really good time. Next slide. Upcoming event is Red, White, and Boom. Obviously, that's on July 4th. It's on a Sunday this year. So everybody should be off on Monday. So hopefully everybody can come out and enjoy the fireworks. We're going to set them off at 9 o'clock this year. That's a little earlier than we have in the past. The last time we did fireworks for July 4th, we set them off around 9:30, 9:40. Kind of heard some feedback from people they would have liked to have had them a little earlier. So we listened to the folks that shared those thoughts with us. So we're going to make it around 9 o'clock. We'll have parking on site and then shuttling from the University of Houston campus parking lot. And so we'll probably have not quite as big a numbers that we've had in the past, but kind of the idea was to try to keep it a little more manageable this year, still be able to social distance people, and while everybody's still kind of getting accustomed to getting back out for these type of events, make sure everybody feels safe. A mask will be required on the shuttle buses. It's just that is an ongoing requirement for that type of facility. So hope people can come out, and if you cannot, we will be broadcasting it online again this year. So looking forward to doing that. Next slide. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot covered in the director's report, but it's been a busy month, and it seems like we just met. It seems like the Parks Board, we just met. It seemed like the month went by really, really fast. So, but we're real busy, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate your report. And I'm just going to open up to the general public if y'all have any questions. So if you do, just raise your hand and just fire away. Any questions or comments from the board? Heather?
Yeah, thanks for the report, Joe. And I'm excited to try that roadway and the trail at Brazos River Park. But my question is about Red, White, and Boom celebration. I know in the past I think it was funded or sponsored by someone. Is this one actually sponsored and funded by the city of Sugar Land, or do you have a sponsor for that event?
It's primarily This year, it's primarily covered by parking lot fees from Smart Financial Center that the city gets the funding from that, which works this year because it's kind of held over from before all the closing due to COVID. And so, but that won't necessarily be available in the future. So we've had various funding sources for these events over the years. We almost always have a certain amount of sponsorships. Very rarely do the sponsorships completely cover the cost of the event. They're usually a supplement to the event, but this year it's primarily coming from that parking lot.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think all of these events that the city puts on, they're always like so top notch. And I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people in the community are really thankful that the city puts on these events that they do because they're always so great. So thanks for sharing that. And I'll make sure to tell all my friends, and hopefully we'll have nice weather so we can be out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Anyone else have questions or comments? No? All right. Well, I think we are at the conclusion of this meeting. I'll take a motion for the board to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Oh, great.
Heather?
Thank you, Heather. Second?
I'll
Kelsey, thank you
second.
so much. All right. We are adjournment of this meeting. Appreciate everyone attending, and we'll see you out, I guess, at the 4th of July.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
you.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.